I just got back from the feed store where I picked up my hens a bag of this hen scratch. Now you may not recognize these hens, but a couple of months ago I did a video on starting your chicks off right, and these are the same chickens. Back then they were a day old, but because we followed all the lessons that we talked about in that video, they're full grown and they're really healthy now and they're growing fast. And so when you're at the feed store, you'll notice, have you ever noticed that there's this big paper tag on every sack of feed that you buy? Now what's this tag all about? Well, if you know how to read it right, it provides a lot of valuable information. So if you take a closer look at this feed tag, you'll see that it contains quite a bit of information. Number one, if you look towards the bottom of the feed tag, it'll show you the ingredients of the product, and in this particular case it's scratch grain. So it's just grain products like milo, maybe a little bit of oats, cracked corn, some other things in this bag. It will also give you directions on how to feed. And you can see here that the scratch grains that we're going to feed these chickens are not a complete source of feed. So it's just kind of got the basics. It's not meant to be a sole source of feed for these chickens. And they'll tell you here that it should not comprise more than 10% of the total diet. And that's important that you always follow the directions on your feed label. With these chickens, we're just going to toss this scratch grain out to give them a treat every now and then. And the feed tag will also give you additional information like any cautionary things you need to know about or any other kind of bulletins. All this is important. One of the most important pieces of the feed tag is this area at the top under guaranteed analysis, where it breaks down the different ingredients within your feed product so you can ensure that you're giving your animal the correct feed product that it needs. So like on this tag, it says crude protein. It's a minimum of 8% crude protein. And then next is crude fat, 1.5%. Crude fiber, 4.5%, and it has some additional nutrients like calcium, phosphorus, and sodium. Now you may be wondering, if you add all those up, it doesn't add up to 100%, so where's the rest of it? Well, every feed has binders that help hold it, if it's a pelleted feed, that helps hold the feed together, and even natural feeds like corn, not 100% of it necessarily has any nutritional value. It has to have all those things included to help hold all the good nutrients together. Again, this is just a basic breakdown. Now, if you get into some of the more processed feeds, you're going to see a lot more complicated breakdown as they add ingredients to the feed and they give their guaranteed analysis on those nutrients that they've added. But anyway, I use scratch grain as just a good start to help you understand what some of the things on the feed tag means. But it's important to understand what crude protein does for your animals, or what fat does for your animals, or what fiber does for your animals. Feed tags and the science of feeding animals is a big science all in its own. So it's incumbent upon me and you as animal raisers to understand what effect that feed is going to have when we give it to the animal, and are we giving it the right feed to be able to meet our goals. And those goals may be like with these chickens, to lay eggs, or either maybe meat chickens, or it may be goats or sheep or cattle or any other kind of livestock. But the important thing is to understand what the feed means, what the different parts of the analysis means, and how that affects the growth of your animal. And it's really that simple. Now keep in mind, every species of farm animal at every stage of growth has different nutritional requirements, so it's really up to you to do your homework and figure out what your animals need in that particular time. But once you understand those needs, just look at the feed tag, follow along what the feed tag says, and if it matches what your animals need, they're going to grow to be healthy and happy animals.